Welcome to this week's special presentation titled The 3 Best Graphs to Hang Your Hat On. My name is Todd Shaffer. I'm the Manager of Research for VectorVest, and I'll be your presenter this evening. Making money doesn't have to be complicated. To prove it, tonight I'll share with you my 3 best graph layouts and how to use them to make money based on my experience as a teacher and a coach here at VectorVest. Before we look at any graphs, let me preface my demonstration by reminding you that it's the VST system of analysis that makes this all possible. With it, I can focus on stocks that have the best combinations of value, safety, and price trend. Without it, I'm shooting in the dark looking at hundreds of random charts. I always like to share resources if you'd like to take a deeper dive. First, the Successful Investing Quick Start course, a great and quick primer on using the VectorVest system as designed by our founder, Dr. Bart DeLito, including guidance on when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. Next, we have the Strategic Investment Matrix Special Report. Those special reports are available in the program under the Views tab. That special report will help you identify getting the best stocks for your investor temperament. We also have a special presentation by Steve Chappell, our Director of Trading System Development, on using that information to find the best stocks for you. And finally, a special presentation by our Managing Director for Canada, Mr. Stan Heller, the NPI, a game changer from August 5th of last year. Of course, there are many more resources within the VectorVest universe, but that will get you started. But let's get started on our presentation because all of the VST analysis is presented to you in the stock viewer. So let's take a look at the program. From our home page, I'll come up to the Viewers tab, and then I'll select the stock viewer. Remember, stock viewer is simply a giant spreadsheet of all the 9,128 stocks currently in the U.S. database, and we've sorted them all by VST descending. So that means the stocks with the best combination of value, safety, and timing are right at the top of the list. We call that forced ranking, so there is a best VST or highest VST stock today, SMCI. And I'll point out a couple things that are working in our favor as investors and traders. Top VST stocks typically have good fundamentals. They're in rising price trends. And look at all of the buy ratings we have on our top 20 stocks here in the stock viewer. Now, of course, we don't intend for you to go out and buy all of these guys because, of course, there's about 1,800 stocks that currently have a buy rating. But that buy rating is confirmation that these stocks have some fundamental strength and they're in rising price trend. So, how can we identify which of these we want to buy for our portfolio? Well, I'm going to use graphs to help make that decision easy. I simply come to the top of the page with 20 stocks displayed and click Graph All. That opens a graphing window for me, and I'm going to choose from my graph layouts VectorVest Simple. Now, Dr. DeLito has taught us that looking at a stock's graph is like looking at its DNA. We're visual beings, and we have an innate skill for recognizing shapes and patterns, skills that come in really handy when we're looking at graphs. And that's easy for me to demonstrate. First, let's clean up our graph a little bit with the most important indicators for this exercise. So we'll leave on price and earnings per share. And we're looking at a 1-year time frame. This approach was outlined by Dr. DeLito back in 2004, and he called it VectorVest Simple, which is why the layout is called VectorVest Simple. And he called it that because it's so easy, but that doesn't mean it's any less effective. The key to this technique is simply favor the stocks with persistently rising price and earnings patterns. The company's improving future value with rising earnings. So favor smooth and steady without excessive volatility or violent drawdowns. I like to say bottom left to upper right, smoother the better, driven by earnings. Bottom left, upper right, smoother the better. And here we can see on SMCI, price is going bottom left, upper right, and it has really accelerated in the last month or so here in its trajectory up the page. Earnings per share also going bottom left, upper right in a relatively smooth fashion. Of course, not every stock has the same characteristics. So what I want to do is flip through these top 20 stock graphs. And I want you to trust your gut and see if you can find the best stocks. Of course, the hard part is I'm only going to give you a few seconds to look at the stock and decide if you like it. If you like it, you note the stock symbol. If you don't like it, or if you're going, well, that's a no, just move on. All right, so you've had a while to look at SMCI now to decide whether or not you like it. Well, let's look at the next one, FCNCA. How about CELH? Or ACLS? Or AEHR? BELFB? STRL? RMBS? UFPT? MOD? NSSC? INTT? AVGO? ON? VIST? CRT? OPRA? EXTR? PLAB? TSLL? Pencils down. So what did you think? Well, some were better than others, right? So trust your gut. Only captured those that stand out to you, right? The maybes or no's. Were there any that were really stunning, that just like really popped out to you as being exceptional? And oh, by the way, you went through 20 graphs in about a minute. So it's easy to do. Now there are some additional helps that you can add to the graph that are also really easy to do that might make your analysis a little bit easier or faster. Let's go back to the graphs. And I'm going to add to the graph our recommendation profile ribbon. Remember we saw on the home page or on the stock viewer that these stocks, these top VST stocks, currently have buy ratings. Well, that's not always been so. SMCI got sell ratings when the price closed below our VectorVest stop price. But notice the correlation. If I take the date line here, when I get the buy rating, prices rising. I get the sell rating, prices falling. Go back to the buy rating, prices rising, right? So there's that nice correlation. And as I look through these other graphs, when price gets a buy rating, or when the stock gets a buy rating, price is appreciating. When we go to the hold and the sell, price is falling back. Some people find the volatility and overextensions of price easier to see with stop on the graph. So let's just flip through a couple of these. And see if you don't think those are helpful. We also suggest, unless you're a trader, let's leave the fireworks stocks for the traders. They often fall back to earth shortly after you buy them, because often that price is greatly overextended. Here's another helpful tip all of us have in our graphing tool, our technical analysis tool for support and resistance. Put that on your graph. Let's avoid entering stocks that are just coming back to retest a resistance level where price is likely to stall and reverse. So buy these guys that pass muster when the market's rising and you get follow through of both the market and the stock. For instance, here's one that broke out above resistance. So if we get follow through of the stock and the market the following day, which was last week's special presentation, take a position. So that's VectorVest simple. Let's scroll back up to the top and let's reset our deck with our next graph layout, the Midas touch. So some of these top VST stocks that we just looked at were Midas touch stocks and some were not. So let's start with what is a Midas touch stock and why is it one of my top 3. The Midas touch approach focuses on price and RT, No fundamentals. So we're simply looking at price action and RT action. However, we're still sorted by VST, so fundamentals are still in the mix. So we still have the benefits of that system working in the background. Now, the Midas Touch gets its name because it originally was developed by Dr. Delito as a timing system for gold. But its benefit is that it uses a couple moving averages of the VectorVest stop price that we saw in the VectorVest Simple demonstration, both a 10 and a 65-day moving average of the stop price. So we're really smoothing out that price action, and a 40-day moving average of RT on the subgraph. The Midas Touch signal is given when the moving averages of stop cross over and are confirmed by the RT moving average crossing above or below the neutral level of 1. Notice the trends can strengthen and weaken. RT accelerates, decelerates, but it stayed above 1, so we're still in uptrend by this analysis. And that trend strengthens and weakens. So the best time to be buying is when price has signal and RT is accelerating. Also, the moving averages of stop price would be fanning out in that acceleration. We could also apply a 5-day moving average to RT to show if it's accelerating, the short-term moving average accelerating, then slowing. And so we can use those pullbacks of the short-term moving average or the compression of these, the convergence of those moving averages to indicate slowing price action. So our best entries are on the crossovers off the lows, and it's time to become defensive or exit even on the crossovers after the highs. And let's take a look at some of our candidate stocks here. Notice FCNCA really got caught up in the chop as the price was pulling back slowly, but had a nice entry on the gap into the current price trend. Another way to sweeten this study is to look for the buy rating on the ribbon as well as the crossover, a confirming signal. And so a nice way to find stocks that are in trend. We have a watch list that we maintain where we take this study, but we limit it now to a 3-month window, and we look for stocks whose moving averages of stop and RT are all at 3-month highs. A pretty good definition of uptrending stocks. So as I flip through these, again, we'll notice that not all stocks in the list meet that criteria. We do maintain a watch list of stocks that do meet the criteria called the Midas Touch watch list. So again, this list is sorted by VST descending. All of the stocks in this list have met that criteria that on a 3-month window, moving averages of stop and RT are all at 3-month highs and RT is above 1. What a great universe of stocks to look for candidates. Now, hopefully the gears are starting to turn because you can see that, wow, I could use these Midas Touch stocks that are all in these nice upward price trends, but actually graph them with the VectorVest Simple graph to make sure they have rising earnings. Right? A creative way to use a very simple graphing technique to analyze the best candidates. Or apply any of the additional aids that you'd like to see. But let's look at our third graphing choice, which is the near perfect indicator, the NPI. Let's go back to the top of our list. With the NPI selected, let's go to our 1-year time frame. And we see that the NPI is very similar to the Midas Touch in that we're looking at moving averages of RT, and we're looking at moving averages of stop price. So we have our 5 and 40-day moving averages of RT, that's the same as the Midas Touch, but now the stop price values are a 5 and a 40 for the moving average of stop price. So a shorter time frame, which makes them faster acting or more responsive. And I think I'll push the control panel off to the side here so we get a little more real estate on the stock graph. So again, the best entries are off bottoms where the RT has stopped falling. The 40-day moving average of RT has stopped falling. The 5 crosses above the 40. Re-entries on subsequent crossovers are okay. They just often are less lucrative as you're further into the trend. Using these faster moving averages of stop, you can sweeten the mix by looking for that to confirm the crossover, or step into positions, maybe enter half the position on the 5-day crossover of RT, and have the second half position when the moving averages of stop price turn positive. Of course, the same is true on the downside. On the bearish crossover of RT, we could exit the position or take off half, take off the second half on the bearish crossover of the moving averages. So you have a couple levers to pull to help you mitigate risk as you manage the trade with this study. And of course, one of the other things that people really like is it's easy to see overextensions of price in that graph model. So let's take a look at a couple different graphs and see how different price action expresses itself. We saw BELFB before, where we have this bearish crossover of RT and the 40-day moving average showing us that while price is still rising, we have this bearish divergence where we're losing momentum in the trade. The better signal coming up off the low, 40-day moving average of RT has stopped falling. You get the bullish crossover, a nice signal on this most recent time frame. UFPT with a nice entry here. And an exit here. One of the things I like is the 5-day crossing below the 40 typically happens before the peak, which will always be lagging, of course, the actual peak in price. So a little bit earlier exit out of flagging price action can be helpful. And of course, the best entries at the crossover or shortly thereafter. But entry okay here anytime as long as the moving averages of RT are accelerating and the moving averages of stop price are fanning out. Entry is okay. It stops being okay, or exit, when the 5-day crosses back below the 40. So there you have it, my 3 picks for the best graph layouts to hang your hat on. Making money doesn't have to be complicated, particularly when you marry the strength of the VectorVest VST system of analysis with some great graph layouts. Thanks for watching.